Hello and welcome back to another pseudo podcast with a my opponent. I've been advertising my Discord server a lot in my videos lately, and for good reason, because it is awesome. We have a lot of really cool people, a lot of really experienced players, so you can come, you can shoot the breeze, you can learn whatever you could possibly want to know about any generation of competitive Pokemon, but especially the first 5, which is what we specialize in on this channel. You can ask questions, you can browse years and years of resources from the top players, you can grab some sample teams in the first post here in the All Gen Resources channel, because you can never have enough of those. And you can ask questions about the teams you've built, you can find people who are looking to test with you, you can find Wi-Fi battles if you're into that. I'll definitely be using this. And we even have some small tournaments in here. We've got one running right now whose semifinals and finals matches I'm going to stream and upload. You can shoot the breeze about music, movies. I think we have a sports channel somewhere. I should really make one actually. But people like to talk about sports too. We even have some clan wars going on, so it is generally a great place to be. So the reason I mention it is because I had this idea recently that you guys have a lot of really good questions and you leave them in YouTube comments, which I tried to get to, but I realized it would be a lot more efficient if you could just ask me any question you want and I would have to respond to all of it. So I came up with this well-named weekly questions channel in the Discord server. So now every week, every Sunday, I am going to make a video like this one where I go through the questions that have been asked in the last week and answer them. So they can be about any topic you want. I mean, I'm sure this video will give you the general gist, but it can be about Pokemon, like either you can ask me about something about myself, like, hey BKC, what's your favorite tournament game? Or, hey BKC, how would I fix this team of mine? So it can be that, it can be about non-Pokemon stuff too, of course, as you already see with the first question. So you can be as serious or as silly as you want. And yeah, so my uploading schedule right now is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I just added Sunday to it because this video is very low effort, so it's not really much trouble to tack it on Sunday. So we're now up to 4 videos a week, and I think that's pretty sustainable because this is pretty easy to do, especially once we get into the swing of things, that I don't have to make this elongated intro, which is just a one-time thing to kick this semi-series off. So yeah, join the Discord, and you have any questions, drop them in the weekly questions channel, and I will get to the question in its entirety, no matter what it is. In my own way, of course. I have to leave that disclaimer, just in case the questions get a little too wild. Okay, here we go. So first question, Maru, what color feet do you normally wear? Well, I'm white, but my socks sometimes leave little threads that are stuck to my feet, so at the end of the day when I've been walking around a lot, I have to make sure to pluck those little threads off before I get into bed or put my feet up on my couch. So generally, you know, the beige color that white people have, and then, you know, little bits of blue or white thread, or sometimes black, because those are the colors of my socks. So you can never have too many of those. Mothra, thoughts on draft leagues? They seem like a lot of fun, and I would really love to participate in one. As the channel expands, I'm looking to diversify and get into new things. So I think draft leagues would be a great opportunity for that. They seem to have a really fun community aspect, which is a lot of the allure of competitive online Pokemon as a whole. So I'm definitely not opposed. It's low pressure, lots of fun. What's not to like? So yeah, I could definitely see myself getting into one. I still think I need to explain to me. But yeah, sure, I'd love to get into one of those. You know, maybe I'll annoy Joey and be like, Joe, get me into a big draft league so I can get lots of subs and viewers and money. That's the goal. Anyway, thank you for the question. Pog, thoughts on a world where Finchinator was an avid RBY main? Finch loves to explain the impact of little bits of RNG in every battle. Now, I think this is a good thing. I really hate when people gloss over significant pieces of RNG in a battle that really affected it and act like it wasn't a crucial factor in determining the winner. So I do appreciate when someone says, yeah, X played well, but what about this thing that happened? So now if Finch was an RBY main, then he would be doing that for every other turn in RBY games, which I think would be pretty entertaining. If you say sorry for hacks, I have no problem with that. But you can't really do it for every little bit of RNG, especially if you play RBY, because you're going to be doing it every other turn. So seeing that would be pretty amusing. I love Finch. I think it would be a good thing. And I think people like Finch are needed. So definitely value your local Finchinator, also known as the Tracy Morgan of Smogan and YouTube. Shellnut, thoughts on RBY-NU? RBY-NU, I think, is the only past-gen lower tier, excluding the Little Cups, that I have no experience with whatsoever. Like, I'm even familiar with RBY-UU, the general gist of it, but NU, I really don't know anything at all. So, sorry to disappoint, but maybe in the future it'll tickle my fancy. Finchinator, this is a great question. It is a late March evening and you are met with a conflict. On the one hand, there is a thriller of an SPL playoff slate of old generation games that you can not only spectate, but also upload to your YouTube account. This grants you the opportunity to engage with your loyal subscribers, pass down years' worth of knowledge, there it is, to the next generation of players, and even, quote-unquote, collect the bag, as young folk would declare. On the other hand, a one-time tribute to Slayer, thank you for the caps, is being televised, and it overlaps with the most important games. They will go over what distinguished Slayer from the other big four thrash metal groups, as well as some of their finest moments. Will you save the replays of the SPL games and watch them later while you catch the Slayer tribute live, or will you record the Slayer tribute and catch the SPL games live? Please, us fans must know. Well, thank you, Finchinator, for posing an interesting conundrum. I had to clarify what the specifics of the Slayer tribute were, because I'm not crazy about Slayer's entire career. I think once they hit the 90s, it kind of became uninspired and forgettable. But the 80s Slayer, with the original lineup of Araya, Hanneman, King, and Lombardo, oh, you can't touch them. That streak they had from Haunting the Chapel through Hell Awaits and Rain and Blood is absolutely untouchable. I mean, I like South of Heaven and Seasons. Well, Seasons is 1990, I think, but still counts as the wave of Slayer's greatness. And Show No Mercy is great too, of course. But I just love that trifecta. So if they were playing that, and with that original lineup, then I would definitely be more interested in that. Not only because of that, but also because I don't like getting games live. Because a lot of the times players play way too quickly for me to be as meticulous and thorough as I would like to be in my analysis. So that is a fairly simple decision. Now, maybe if the tribute sucked because it was, half the original lineup and a bunch of songs I don't really care for, then, sure, maybe I'd stream for, hype factor, but I would still generally prefer to get the games in a scenario where I can take as long as I like, as I always do. And yes, and if the tribute was as good as I would like it to be, then yes, of course, I would thoroughly enjoy that. Especially if we're talking about what makes Slayer stand out from their thrash metal contemporaries. I mean, look, there were a lot of thrash bands doing stuff similar to what Slayer was doing, like Sepultura and their ilk. But in terms of like the popular ones, like everyone knows Metallica, Megadeth, and Anthrax, the other big four, I think Slayer's mainstream appeal of sorts, I mean, they weren't really mainstream, I guess, but for a band as savage and ferocious as Slayer, they're pretty accessible, all things considered. Which is astounding when you consider just how brutal Rain and Blood is. I mean, it really is bordering on death metal, like pure death metal at times. So kickstarted the genre, all that stuff. So yeah, I would really love if they went into the impact of that. So yeah, if the tribute was good, then not even a contest. So both because I would love the tribute and because I prefer to go over games at my own pace. So thank you for the question. It was wonderful. Zasa 2. If you had the opportunity to ban any one Pokemon in every tier in any generation, which Pokemon would you ban? I'm going to stick to OU because I am not familiar enough with the lower tiers of past generations to where I would have a definitive opinion on whether I think something should be banned. Like, for example, I like Advanced UU, I played a decent amount, but I don't really have an opinion on whether Kangaskhan is too much for the tier or not. So I'm going to stick to OU. In RBY, I'd get rid of Dragonite because, excuse me, it has nothing but stupid rap nonsense to offer, whereas Cloyster and Victreebel, they actually have a more overarching purpose, whereas Dragonite is just, well, I hope I beat this guy who's better than me because I rapped him to death. So, yeah, and agility, outspeeding everything, and rapping everything, super, super dumb. So, yeah, goodbye Dragonite. GSC is interesting, but since this is just like what I want personally, I don't think anything should be banned from GSC, and I don't think anything should be banned from RBY or any of these generations, really. Well, I mean, let's, rather than get into that, I'm trying to prevent myself from getting too derailed in my videos. It's a thing I'm working on. So yeah, if it's just me, making every minute of the game better, then in GSC, I would absolutely ban Jinx. Not because I think it's broken, but because I really hate when players just go, alright, well, time to freeze/psychic drop everything, and forget outplaying, I'm just gonna fish, and then they get it. It's really dumb. So I would get rid of Jinx for that reason. Advance, again, nothing needs to be banned. RBY actually would not mind a Dragonite ban at all. For competitive reasons, as opposed to just, I hate this thing, get it out of here reasons. So, Advance, nothing needs to be banned at all, but because Zasa asked for me to ban a Pokemon instead of a strategy, then I would ban Cacturne, because the other two Sandvale Pokemon are not that good. So, that's definitely the Pokemon I would get rid of. I do think Sandvale needs to go, but if I just have to ban a Pokemon, then Cacturne. Then Gen 4, I would not, again, I wouldn't ban anything, but if I, had to, then I would not be sorry to see Dugtrio go. Just as a whole, I wouldn't even be opposed to that ban, sorry. But, yeah, I think Dugtrio makes the tier a little more volatile, and while I don't mind it in the tier, I definitely would not be sorry to see it go. So, I could go either way. If I had to vote today, then I would say, yeah, get rid of it. Because I think, again, like Jinx, it offers more of a cheese, surprise, better player. I'm going to just hope you can't handle this kind of factor that is not really present to the extent that Dugtrio is elsewhere in the tier. So yeah, Doug. Gen 5 Politoed, not even a question. I hate what Rain has done to Gen 5. I think it's so dumb the way it works the tier. I mean, I've learned to enjoy Gen 5 for what it is. I think it's a competitive metagame and whatnot. It can be enjoyable. But I still really, really, really don't like Rain as a whole. I think it's crazy, crazy dumb. Actually, that's really hard because maybe it would be Keldeo. I've always thought Keldeo should be banned. I voted ban on it when it was suspect tested 7 years ago. Over 7 years ago now. And I think the way it warps team building, because for better or worse, Black and White is the weather generation, and I think Rain is a lot more manageable. I mean, I still think Rain Tentacruel is really dumb, but I think Keldeo is stupid on every style. So I'm going to change my answer from Politoed to Keldeo. Black and White 1, Rain was not overbearing at all, and a lot of that stemmed from the lack of, well, Thunderous Therian as well, but also lack of Keldeo. And it's just so fast, so strong, so stupid to counter. So I would definitely get rid of Keld. So yeah, final answer. Gen 6, Shuckle. I would not necessarily ban Shuckle, but I wouldn't be sorry to see it go either. I think Oris is a fantastic tier. If anything, I would free Hoopa Unbound. I think that was a fairly unjust ban. But I'm not gonna cry over spilled milk either. I'm not sorry to see it go, let's say. But yeah, Shuckle, I think Sticky Web is just kind of stupid. I don't think it's broken or anything. Matter of fact, I've had some very interesting games against high-level players who are using Sticky Web. But at the same time, it is kind of, I can see the arguments against it, so if I had to pick one thing, then I would ban Sticky Web. Or not Sticky Web, Shuckle. Because I'm pretty sure the other Sticky Webbers kind of suck, so Yeah, if I could ban anything in Oris at all, I would ban Scald, because I would ban Scald from every tier and every generation that it's available in. But if we're just sticking with Pokemon, then Shuckle. So there's that. Gen 7, probably Kartana. I mean, I don't like Magearna and Toxapex, but they kind of make Sun and Moon, or Ultra Sun and Moon technically, what it is, and there's a balance to them. Whereas Kartana is just, oh, I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. So, I mean, I'm not crazy about Z Crystals as a whole. Like, I think Protean Greninja is insane, but overall, if I had to pick one thing, it would be Kartana. Mega Mawile is also kind of dumb, but I think Kartana is the most agreeable. That it's just kind of stupid. So, and Sword and Shield, I don't really know much, but I really hate Toxapex. I mean, I was actually pretty up to date with the Cinderace Magearna metagame, and then those two got banned, and new stuff. Did new stuff come in? I think it did. I don't know. But, yeah, a lot of metagame development happened, so I'm out of the loop again. So, I'll just say that I really hate Toxapex as a Pokemon. I mean, I love using it because it's so good, but I absolutely despise what it is and what it represents and whatnot. So, Toxapex just because. Favorite Pokemon theme? This is easy. Gold, Silver, and Crystals, Route 42, 43, 44, and Lake of Rage theme. I think those are the route numbers that it plays on, but ever since I was a little kid, ever since I was like 6, I've loved that theme. It just exudes a wondrous feeling of adventure and nostalgia. This was to a 6-year-old too. How do you make a 6-year-old nostalgic? So it's just wonderful and perfect and autumn and everything. So I love that. Yeah. Sketch, I'm addicted to Tag Pro, but I told everyone I know I've just been busy with university applications 24/7. Do you have any other excuses? Because they seem to have found out I've been lying. Easy, tell them you struggle with addiction and just let them figure out what kind of addiction they think it is. You won't look too good in their eyes, but they'll be understanding and they'll probably give you some more privacy to Tag Pro it up. CEO of Dracovish. Alright, language coming in, I guess. I'm in the pad aisle. What size pussy you wear? It's a great question. I think I modeled my latest implant after your mother's, so. Tennis. Kevin, you have two options. Play and support your SPL team, or play Tag Pro and say nothing in Team Discord. Which seems more appealing? This is a reference to when I was managing an SPL 7, and I got the best OU player at the time, Cosine 180. I don't know if Sketch was also referring to that, but I figured it would be. This one was a lot more on the nose, so. Yeah, I got Cosine 180 and X-Ray, the German duo, who were the two best OU players at the time, and I figured they would lead us to victory. Now, I was a bad drafter as a whole, but I figured we had some hope, thanks to those guys. And with Cosine, then he was just not a part of the team, and he showed up, didn't play his games well at all, and didn't have a great record. And I asked, dude, what's going on? Why aren't you a part of the team? And he gave me some nonsense about volunteering and university applications, something like that. And I was like, well, okay, don't want, real life is more important. And then later I found out that he was addicted to Tag Pro and was playing it 8 hours a day. And this wasn't just hearsay either. He was on the leaderboard of some Tag Pro site, and it was marking down how often he was playing. So I didn't feel great about being lied to there at all. Did not care for it, and I was very upset. So that's the story here. 4 years later, it's more comical than anything else, but at the time I was not happy. And some of his friends were aware, and they were like, dude, did you not know? And I was like, no. So that's on me, but, still. So, yeah, I guess, it wasn't Team Discord, technically. That's when we were using IRC. It was the last SPL with IRC, actually. And the option is, of course, play and support your SPL team, because SPL teams have a fellow player camaraderie factor which cannot be replicated by Tag Pro, to my understanding. So, yeah, I guess Tag Pro really is just that addicting, though. Anyway, Oren Latios, what non-Pokemon games do you play? What do you think about uploading more variety to the channel? Reason why I ask is it won't hurt to find more things for you to make an hour-plus long vid of you just rambling about whatever you want. I can listen to your voice for hours and it helps me pass time. It's great. First of all, thank you very much. I'm glad to hear that someone appreciates my voice. I have never been much of a non-Pokemon game person. Ever since I was a kid, it was just mostly Pokemon. I mean, yeah, okay, I played Super Mario and stuff with friends on occasion, but for the most part, it was just everything Pokemon I could get my hands on. When I was 9 to about 12 or so, then I was really into sports games. MVP Baseball 2005 for GameCube was the greatest thing ever. I love the soundtrack, the mechanics, the teams, everything. It's a great time to be a baseball fan. Yeah, so I really like those. But for the most part, it's just been Pokemon. I would like to, try some other games, but I don't have a PS4 or an Xbox or anything, so I'm kind of limited to just emulating DS stuff. One game I would really like to play is The World Ends With You because I love its soundtrack. I've been hearing it scattered around for about 10 years now. So that's one. I don't know about uploading it. But yeah, I'm not opposed to the idea, but I won't BS you. Don't hold your breath. I don't see it happening anytime in the near future. But, I'm not opposed to the idea. Yeah, I mean, I've also enjoyed following other games like God of War and The Last of Us, because I can't play them myself, but I'll watch the game movie, so to speak. So, those are enjoyable, but I can't really see myself playing them anytime in the near future. That said, I am going to get a Switch eventually, and I would love to play... Oh, I am going to play the new Mystery Dungeon. Well, that's Pokemon. It's not competitive Pokemon, but I guess that's variety, because it's not competitive, and my next Let's Play uploading thing, whenever I get around to it, is Mystery Dungeon 2, 100%, because I love that. But I would love to also maybe do the remade Mystery Dungeon. So, yeah, there's your answer. XJoelita, if you were to arbitrarily change any old gen's lower tier at your pleasure, which one would it be, and what change would you do? Gen 4 UU, I would remove Hail. Or Walrein, either or. I just think Walrein is just unbelievably cheap, stupid, uncompetitive, whatever buzzword you prefer to use, and it has no place in the tier. Pizza Burger 28, what will happen when you finally become a YouTube superstar and start producing daily, I'm not saying that word? Will your body and mind finally crumble and rot away? I imagine myself undergoing some sort of psychotic break like Travis does in Taxi Driver. I think that's the most apt description of how it'll go down. As the subscribers start piling up and I become more and more detached, then I can definitely see myself having fits of random screaming hysteria. Maybe my videos will become me screaming at people on the streets about the optimal EV spread for choice band Salamence and the best way to support DDT tar and stuff like that. Former respected, well, let's not say respected, former Pokemon player is arrested for street harassment of normal citizens, something like that. So look forward to that. Abysmal, what's a good memory you had listening to or being invested in your favorite artist? My favorite band is Swans. So the first time I saw them was March 14th, 2017. And the reason I went to see them was in Brno, Czech Republic. And the reason was because two of my Pokemon buddies, Mail and Bedshabear, who are both from Austria, they were like, hey, Swans are playing in Brno, you should come with us to the show. And I was a passing fan of Swans before. I'd heard some stuff like The Great Annihilator and a couple of their 80s records like Filth and Public Castration. And I was, a passing fan because I was into metal pretty much all the time back then, and Swans were heavier than most metal, so hell yeah, let's go see Swans. And it would just be a good hangout opportunity in general. And if you've ever heard of people who have seen Swans live telling you what a transformative experience it was, they're not exaggerating. It really is astonishing. So that was a big one, and then I went to see them again by myself in Berlin in October of the same year, which was very important for me personally. I was going through some stuff, and they killed it once again. Even though it was effectively the same show, the same set list, it was still astonishing. I would go see that same set list again and again. I love that band. I'm a connoisseur of their work, and their latest incarnation. Well, they're in a new one now. I was gonna go see them again. They were gonna be in Prague this past April before, everything happened. I'm sure I'll go see them when that tour eventually resumes. But yeah, I love that incarnation of the reunion, whatever Jira calls it, from 2010 on. So, yeah, I really... Oh, let me specify that memory. The second time I saw them, then their opener track is The Knot, which is a 45-minute build-up in the post-rock genre, for those of you who are into Godspeed You, Black Emperor, and stuff like that. And specifically, I was really into it, and, forgetting all my troubles and whatnot. But I remember specifically at the crescendo of that track where it's just the rhythmic slamming over and over and you're just getting lost in it. Then I saw their keyboardist, Paul Wallfish, take a drumstick and start slamming one of the drummer's cymbals, in time with him. So he was really just adding to this cacophony of wonderful noise. And I was just astonished. I mean, throughout the show they killed it, but that was just special to me. Because that was not, I devoured every single live video of Swans that existed on YouTube. So that was not a regular part of their show. It was just something that he did at that moment, which is what this most recent incarnation of Swans has been all about. Being right there in that moment, and nothing else exists. And yeah, it was tremendous. Yeah, so Lakin, who is your favorite film director and why? Martin Scorsese. I really, really love his refusal to compromise at all. I mean, the closest you could get to a compromise with him is that the end of Taxi Driver. I love that story where there was so much blood that they had to change the color of it to avoid an X rating. But, just the sheer filth of that story is just wonderful. Don't get me wrong, I do not think Travis Bickle is a hero or anyone to be emulated at all, but I really, really love Taxi Driver. It's just... I know the saying that it's hypnotic is something that's been said a lot in the 40-plus years that movie has been around, but it's just... You get lost in it and swept up in it, and you're in a walking nightmare, almost. It's just a haze of, not despair, per se, but definitely on the darker side, and there's an allure to that. And the first time I watched Taxi Driver was at 2 in the morning or something, and during that final shootout, then I actually felt like I was inside the movie, which I've never experienced with something else. And I think that speaks to the hypnotic quality of it. And yeah, it was really just astonishing. So, and Taxi Driver is obviously not Scorsese's only movie, but that's the one that's had the biggest impact. But Goodfellas really is not far behind. I saw that in an indie theater here in Prague, and the first time I saw Goodfellas, I was just like, oh, come on, I don't like this. And then I saw it in the theater a couple years later, and I was like, oh my god, this is absolutely incredible. So I don't have the time right now to go into just why I like it, but Scorsese has this gift for really making you enjoy your time in whatever world he's focusing on for that particular film, which I think is an important characteristic for every movie. Like, even, movies that aren't that heavy on plot, like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a good example to go in the Tarantino direction, or, Big Lebowski. Nothing of real importance happens throughout much of the movie, but you just enjoy being inside it, being in that atmosphere. And I think Scorsese's gift for that, no matter the surrounding he's chosen, is just astonishing. I've never disliked a Scorsese movie, which is... I haven't seen that really early one he did, which everyone says is, not good, but... And I still have to see, Mean Streets, and, a couple others, Last Temptation of Christ, but so far he has not missed for me. And I really admire his ethos when it comes to making films. It's not about technical proficiency. It's not about, trying to make the greatest movie of all time. It's about focusing on yourself and what you want to do and just going all in on that, really pouring all your passion into it. And I really admire that. So, yeah, Scorsese. Vapicuno, why or how is DD Ments good? DD Ments is good in advance because it outspeeds the entire tier after a boost, which you cannot say for Gyarados or Tyranitar, and it threatens to OHKO a lot of frail offense. Put it this way, you can't outspeed DD Ments, so your only option is taking a hit from it. And for a lot of frail offense, then their options for dealing with the DDers, T-Tar and Gyarados, are outspeeding them. So, with Ments, if T-Tar or Gyarados is going to outspeed something that it normally might not, then they have to run a plus speed nature, and thus that makes it easier to tank them, whereas Ments is so naturally fast that you can get all your power out of it, and all the speed you could possibly need as well. So, that's its strength. And once it sets up, it's got that wonderful Doug abuse opportunity, as well as setting up on a -1 T-Tar Rock Slide. So if the opposing team is softened up, then quite literally nothing cleans up as hard as Ments, because it outspeeds everything. It's not getting chipped by sand like, say, Salakera, and it's faster and it's strong, and it's got all the right coverage. You're never going to really beat Ments because it doesn't have the right coverage, because it's not like with Gyarados where you have to choose between HP Flying or a Rock move. Ments just has everything it needs. I mean, yeah, sometimes you'll run Brick Break over EQ, and that just makes it more dangerous than what it's supposed to, cleaning up once it gets that one boost. And, yeah, I mean, DD Ments, of course, has its problems, but it's got a lot of upside as well. So, Barbarino, what is your favorite mon introduced in DPP, and why is it Luxray? I love this question because I love the Gen 4 Pokemon. All of them. I really, really love Gen 4. And I don't know what my favorite introduced in the generation is, because Luxray is obviously a great contender. I love that early game electric type line. I love, the adorable Shinx to all the way through the badass Luxray. Badass is not really something I think of when considering Pokemon, but, it's a simpler way of saying I appreciate its menacing qualities. There's Luxray, there's also Staraptor, there's Floatzel, there's Roserade, there's Mismagius, there's Honchkrow. I even like the stupid stuff, the B-Barrels, the Krickettoons, well, actually I was going to say Stunky, but I think Stunky and Skuntank are great. Drapion, I love Drapion. The two Hippos, even something like Carnivine. I love Gen 4 and all its Pokemon. If I had to pick one, you know what, I'm going to say Luxray, because I love in Mystery Dungeon 2 when you get to Amp Plains, and this is why I prefer Explorers of Time and Darkness over Sky, by the way, because when you get to Amp Plains, then you will experience the terror of the Luxray tribe. But yeah, I love all the starters too. Yeah, Gen 4 is just wonderful. They really better not butcher my remakes. If they do, I will release a series of angrily worded YouTube videos. Lots of views on that one, so I guess win-win. But I would much rather just prefer making YouTube videos about how much I love the remakes. So, let's just make everyone happy. C, the Lantern Man himself. What is the best Jirachi set, and why is it Choice Band for Advance? Okay, Choice Band Jirachi is obviously not the best Jirachi set, but it's very cool. It is entirely unique in what it does. Nothing else does Doom Desire. Future Sight sucks. It's weak, and nothing is using it for a reason. But Doom Desire, it's typeless, so you can't resist it, and just the sheer factor, and of course it's a lot stronger than Future Sight, but the sheer factor of having to take 2 attacks on the same turn is unmatched. So CB Jirachi is thoroughly incredible. And, yeah, of course it needs support, so does everything. It's got the same weaknesses as, say, CB Tar. It's also vulnerable to Magaton, but so is CB Metagross. And it's obviously doesn't have the same huge upsides as those, so it's not the most consistent poke, but fear Choice Band Doom Desire. It is truly something to behold. Because it is, in a way, impossible to wall if you set it up correctly with your other offensive Pokemon. And of course, having a Choice Band HP Fighting to easily 1v1 T-Tar and threaten Blissey and Snorlax is great as well. You spread Paralysis with Body Slam too, so yeah, awesome poke. As for my second favorite Jirachi set, I've always been partial to Wish Calm Mind, but I also love a good old Super Rachi. Very satisfying poke, especially with the right coverage. So, John Madden, what is your favorite memory when you were playing Pokemon as a kid? Oh, wow, this is asking me to choose between my children here. I really don't know. There were so many across all. The first 4 generations were the ones I played as, a kid, before I was a teenager. So, I don't know, it's really tough. There's obviously the stereotypical answer of facing red in GSC. That's a great one. I guess making my way through the Elite Four for the first time in Sapphire, that was big. Especially because Salamence is my favorite Pokemon, and the first time I faced Elite Four Drake, I had managed to survive his first 4 Pokemon with my trusty Swampert, and then this monstrous dragon comes in and finishes me off because I was trying to solo with Swampert like any normal child would, and I just had to have that Mence. So, yeah, that was a big one. Gen 4, everything about it. The Distortion World for the first time, making your way through the snowy route to Snow Point City. Really too much to choose. I don't know if I could pick a favorite. Yeah, it's really hard because so many of them are tied to certain times. Like, I remember the first time I faced Mewtwo in RBY was on a train back from New York. This is really tough stuff. But, yeah, if I had to pick one, it would just be any time I was just being in that area of GSC with my favorite theme in it. But, yeah, I used to beat the E4 over and over in Sapphire, just because I love the champion theme so much. And raising all my pokes to level 100, Salamence was my first, Swampert followed, then Kyogre and Mightyena and others. There's an ad. Yeah, I just played them everywhere, all over the 2 countries I hop back and forth between, on planes, on trains, and cars, and school. Yeah, I really loved those first 4 generations as a kid. So, but if I had to pick one, then something with GSC. Harbinger, what are your thoughts on Sandvale and Vance? Is Cacturne a legitimate threat in your eyes? Yes, Cacturne is a legitimate threat. It's super dangerous, and it should also be banned because it is uncompetitive in every way. I hate it. It's stupid. It should burn in hell. Fromikeable, hey Mike. Lol, hey Kev, lol, how are you? Like so, lol, big and strong and cool and make all the girls like you, lol. Well, it comes with the territory of being a Pokemon master. Because when you play Pokemon all day, then you forget to eat, so you put on a lot of muscle, because that's how that works. Then and your facial features just mold themselves into this wonderful combination of... Yeah, you pretty much become James Bond, is what I'm saying. So, lots of Pokemon. Ununhexium, fuck, marry, kill, Leftovers, Choice Band, Salicberry. I would marry Leftovers because Leftovers, you gotta go the distance, and Leftovers represents commitment. And Choice Band, I would fuck because sometimes you need immediate gratification. This is really a great question, thank you. And I would kill Salicberry just because it's not as satisfying as Choice Band. And of course does not have the distance of Leftovers. And plus Salicberry, it's over too fast. So, Rachi, do you think it's better to focus on only one tier in order to improve? If so, do you think one tier is better at it than others? This is actually a fantastic question. I really am not sure, and the cop-out answer is it depends. But I don't know. I would say if you want to, play it safe, then yes, it is probably easier to focus on one tier. So there's less going on that could trip you up. Because, if you're trying to learn Gens 2, 3, 4, 5, and, mechanics are bouncing all over the place, and you're also trying to get a grasp on the common sets and whatnot, then, that could get in the way. So I would say yes, it is probably easier to just focus on one tier, because you can really hone your tier knowledge and your Pokemon knowledge at the same time without any outside clutter. And then once you have really mastered that one tier, or, let's not say mastered, once you've really gotten the hang of that one tier, then you can move on to the next. Once you know you're not going to be, you're not trying to learn too much at once, you're not juggling a lot. So, yeah, focus on one first and hone your overall Pokemon skill, and that will translate, and it will make it easier for you to transition to other tiers because when you focus on one tier, then you're also what's the word? Not passively, but indirectly, I guess. You're also honing your general Pokemon skill, and that will make it easier to learn other tiers, especially once you're not trying to juggle the specifics of several different metagames at the same time. So, yes, I would focus on one. And if one tier is better, I think Advance is generally the perfect balance of everything you're looking to learn in Pokemon. Metagame-specific stuff and also just how to play the game as a whole. So I think Advance is definitely the sweet spot. Although if you prefer GSC or RBY or DPP or Black and White or ORS, then yeah, go for those. Sure. Fapakuno again. Do you think Advance has seen new team structures and cores in 2020? Absolutely. The first is the new style of offense that runs the, not first in order of how they popped up, but just the first that comes to mind, is the style of offense that beats down on Scarm and then removes its spikes with offensive Claydol. I mean, the advent of offensive Claydol is big enough, but since we're talking about team structures specifically, then Claydol plays a big part, not just on semi-stall teams where you would naturally, spiking teams, let's say, where you would naturally fit a Claydol, but also on offensive teams, because now with speed and explosion, it really is a great offensive Pokemon. And I think that style, the Scarm beatdown, and then resetting its spikes so you don't have to deal with them, or so you only have to deal with one at a time instead of having multiple rack up on you throughout a game, I think that was notable. I think the style of spikes I was using has really blossomed. The style of spikes I was using in SPL, the no Gengar, the focus on handling Magdoll or spinners, just by having a team that matches up well against those Pokemon as a whole. So you get to have your cake and eat it too. You get to still run your Scarm Bliss, and then you still have your offensive threat, so you're not entirely hinging on spikes to do all the work for you. So, stuff like Breloom and, loading up on mixed sweepers and whatnot. Finishing off with Arrow once those mixed sweepers have done their job, as opposed to finishing off with Arrow once the spikes have done their job. So I think, the lowered emphasis on Gar, but the continued power of those spikes teams, and the more offensive use of Blissey on spikes teams, because putting Blissey on a spikes team does not automatically make it balanced or stall. It can still be a very offensive team because Blissey's just that good. So I think those cores, or those styles of teams, the spikes teams that have a good overall matchup against the metagame without, having to fear Magdoll, and the addition of Blissey to both heal up Scarm with Wish or contribute to a team's offense. I think those styles of team that I was using a lot, those aren't like the newest thing in the world, but I think they have definitely come into newer prominence, or they have come into greater prominence, rather. And they are, with the focus on them that we now have, I think they are new in the grand scheme of things. So yes, I would definitely count them. And finally, Sandvale Garbage, I guess. Anything I'm missing? I think those are definitely the big ones. I mean, you see it with like Fori stuff now too. Fori with no Gar. So I think that the Scarm stuff definitely paid off. Lots of Wish Bliss. Bliss even on offense teams. So yeah, the Scarm beatdown and those are definitely the big ones, I believe. Yeah, because other stuff is just mixed or like spins on old styles, like Blaziken on mixed offense. Then yeah, that's still just mixed offense. So yeah, the team structures we already mentioned, the cores, offensive Claydol on offense. I guess it's kind of an either-or thing, but Wish Bliss, I think, Wish Bliss plus stuff has definitely taken off, for sure. Yeah, and I think that's most of it. So, yeah, Pichu Flash. Magcargo has gained a very nice support move pool, Recover, Lava Plume, Clear Smog, Will-O-Wisp, Beyond Explosion, which was previously useful. You didn't mention Stealth Rock, but also get Stealth Rock. I found that he is a good physical wall with max HP, max defense, and a bold nature. He necessitates a team partner like Mantine, though, to cover his various weaknesses. Anyways, now for the actual question. First of all, I use the word anyway. I hate the word anyways because it's not real. Was Magcargo usable in any capacity in previous generations? I really love him as a Pokemon. Not in OU. I'm going to have to disappoint you there. But in Gen 4 UU, Magcargo, which is a tier which is wonderful because pretty much everything you want to be is viable. So for Raichu lovers, go there. Magcargo is great. Okay, not great, but it's not a joke in DPP UU. It is usable because it counters one of the most difficult to counter Pokemon in the metagame, Moltres. It resists the hell out of Fire Blast and Air Slash and doesn't mind HP Grass. You're going to want Special Defense EVs, though, because he has too many physical weaknesses, and you want the actual special tanking of Moltres. So, you counter Moltres really well, and you get up rocks, and you recover, and you spam Will-O-Wisp and burn stuff. And you have Lava Plume, of course. Oh, you use Stealth Rock, Recover, Lava Plume, HP Rock, so you actually hurt Moltres and threaten Subroost sets. I'm sure you could, if you have Stealth Rock elsewhere, you could fit Toxic too, because Toxic on Fire types is always nice, because Venusaur doesn't want to come into it. So yeah, you can do that. And yeah, you're going to want some spin support, but yeah, Magcargo absolutely is viable in DPP UU. So go nuts, have fun, enjoy. NCH Max, what level of hacks do you think would be necessary to consider a win illegitimate? The more advanced I play, the more I've come to the conclusion that pretty much every game is affected by hacks in at least some capacity. Well, I think everyone would agree that a Jinx Pentafreeze would be pretty bullshit. What's considered reasonable to play around is much blurrier when talking about things like Rock Slide flinches, Hydro misses, etc. Where do you think the line falls? Should all wins be considered legitimate regardless of hacks? This is a fantastic question. I really could go all day about this. A lot of lucky players, people who get slapped with that tag, they're not blatantly robbing their opponents on the last turn with, last 3 turns, 3 crits, that kind of stuff. But what they tend to get is like early game small stuff like a flinch or a toxic miss, and you're like, oh, you can't complain about that. That's small. And in the grand scheme of things, they're such good players that small advantage is all they need to just run away with the game. And, they often say, sorry about that, it made it not a game, which is infuriating. So that kind of stuff, it really varies depending. I can't really put a number on it, but I guess you just have to learn to. What I would do is learn how much a game how well a player could have played around something. There's almost always something that can be played around, and generally once you get experienced and once you learn to let go of blaming hacks for everything, and really see if something else could have been done, within reason, of course, then you'll find that line, and it'll vary. People will disagree, generally, and on what's reasonable. Like, oh, if he double-switched 16 times to get an extra Stealth Rock chip on that one Pokemon, he still could have won after he got quintuple frozen, so he shouldn't really be complaining. Obviously that's nonsense, but there is a line. It's really hard to find, but I would recommend really trying to see how hacks affected a game, no matter how small, no matter how seemingly inconsequential, and seeing if overall the player who lost could have done more, within reason, of course. This really is a great question, a very interesting discussion to have. It might be nice to discuss the impact of hacks with like a panel of players. So, yeah, this is a really great question. I'm glad. I know I didn't really give much of an answer other than figuring it out yourself, but it's really because it's hard to answer. You can't really. I would say the line falls to somewhere where it couldn't have reasonably been avoided, the hacks, and it couldn't have reasonably been played around. So that's my answer. So should all wins be considered legitimate? I mean, I guess, because, who's going to listen? No matter how right you are about someone hacking the hell out of someone else, most people just don't care. And that's stupid and unfair, and it sucks, and people are end result oriented as opposed to actually watching the game and thinking about what actually happened in it. And it sucks, but you're never going to win over a lot of people by saying, well, if you watch the actual game, all you can do is, disregard the misinformed opinions of people who go, oh, well, he won and he played well, therefore he deserved that quintuple rock slide flinch. So, he put himself into a position where all he needed was 3 crits and 4 turns, and he got them, so, props to him for playing well. I would not buy stuff like that. So, it's a hard question, and I'm really glad you asked it, and I hope that to cover this kind of thing later in the game, because hacks is, playing around hacks is a lot of what makes great players great. So, learning to do so and they do so by identifying what they could have done better, even in games where they were unlucky. And you obviously can't tilt as soon as you have a bad piece of hacks against you, because otherwise you'll never go very far. What is your favorite book from Gainery? I used to read a lot as a kid, and then I discovered the internet. I'm sure a lot of other people had this, but I still love to read. And whenever I do read, then I'm like, why don't I do this more? So, for a while, when I was a teenager, I would say it was probably 1984, just because I've never had such a visceral response to a book. I mean, the first time I read it, I was miserable, I was scared. I was like 15. I hated it, and I've read it several times since then. It is, again, atmosphere, just like in movies. It is thick, it is everywhere, it is all-encompassing, it's really something. Nowadays, I would say Watchmen. I know it's a comic book / graphic novel / whatever you want to call it, but it is as legitimate of a novel as anything you could care to name. So I really, really do love Watchmen. It is thoroughly excellent. I'm not into comic books at all. The only one I've ever read is The Killing Joke, and it was good, it was decent, whatever, but it didn't really stay with me, whereas Watchmen, the book, astonishing. So I would say that without question. Of course, I do need to read a lot more, but for now, it's that. I really love how thorough and intricate the story is, and just I don't feel like the suspense factor of it gets talked about enough. It really brings you in. I mean, I know about all its important allegories and the care of they took into using the comics medium to the fullest, but I think the way they use that to create suspense is not nearly as renowned as it should be. So, that said, I did recently purchase Dune in anticipation of the movie coming out by Denis Villeneuve. I believe that's how you say his name. So I saw it for like $10-15, and I was like, yeah, or the equivalent of, rather. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll snatch that up. So I'm going to be reading that soon. All right, Beats Black. Is Raiku's drop from Advanced OU something you're still planning to do? Yeah. I've been saying that for a while, haven't I? Yeah, it's on my list. I've started compiling a list of videos I need to do so I don't forget. So, yes. Raikou is back, Vapicuno is correct, but not to his level of his former glory. Coolio, why are you called 37? Because in SPL 9, then the Raiders retained me for $37K, which is a stupid, stupid price for anyone, but they really wanted me on the team, and otherwise I was going to go elsewhere. So I earned the nickname 37. Insert callous penis size joke here. Good one, Zakuru. Heika, and who are the best players in each generation in your opinion? Of all time, and you excluded. So I'm not really sure. Oh, of all time, and you excluded, meaning those are not like excluding all-time players, just current. But so all-time best players each generation, and not including myself. Well, I wouldn't have done that anyway, but thank you for making sure. So RBY. Troller, Pizzone, Marco ASD, Alexander, GG Fan, Hitmonlee, Nails, and, nothing too controversial there. Those are some pretty well agreed upon best players. I'm not really familiar with the old guard, but I really did love Isa. Whenever I saw him play, he was in the zone as much as anyone else. He played some really incredible RBY. So Bedshabear, he was also ferocious at it. I really enjoyed his style, using Jinx when no one else was. And I think that's pretty much it. I can't remember anyone else off the top of my head, so I'll just stick with those guys. GSC, Earthworm, of course, Conflict, M-Dragon. I never really saw Borat play, but I respect what he's done for the tier, and I acknowledge that he was probably among the most skilled. I like G80's approach to the tier as well. You know, guys like Goofball, Mop or MOP, Veteran in Love, of course. He was an absolute monster at it in his day. I've done a lot of reading on my Poke history, so I've got some pretty good knowledge on old players like Flameout that I wasn't around to see, but I've read logs and scoured old YouTube videos as much as I could. So, and in the modern day, of course, then you got guys like there's also Conflict, M-Dragon, Earthworm, and stuff, and Jorgen, also Lavos, of course. I like Friend of Mr. Golem 120 a lot. I guess if we're calling of all time, then maybe not, but I think he's a great player, and the pool nowadays is fairly sparse. So, yeah, I think those are the big ones. Yeah, I can't really think of anyone else I would name. Oh, Fear, obviously Fear. I knew I was forgetting someone. So, yeah, Fear is definitely one of the best ever. Advance, Astamatidos, McMegan, Ojama, Linear Curve. Asta is my number one all time, no question. Who else is there all time? Oh, I really love G80 and Goofball and Husk styles. Loki, going a lot more old school. Majin Tupac Z, he was an absolute monster. I got to see him in his heyday. He was an absolute monster. Who else is there? UD for a time was unquestionably top 5 or maybe even top 3. Undisputed, of course. He used to be my tutor, actually. Monsters player. Really hit his stride in advance. Let's see. I think those are the big ones that I can recall. Dexa. Dexa was a huge name. Golden Sun. So, I think those are the biggest names I can think of. So, DPP, Philip 7086, August, Tamahome, of course. Let's see who else. All time? Well, then, of course, if we're going all time, those are more current names, but Heister Babidi, he was amazing. Earthworm, Panamaxis, Husk, Goki, big names like that. Atticus, tons of huge names from the Gen 4 era. But of all time, I think those would be up there. So, I think I've covered all the big names I wanted to from Gen 4. Gen 5, Ojama would be up there too. He was great in Gen 4. He's definitely established himself as among the best ever. Let's see what else. Gen 5, I would put McMegan and Ojama once again. Of all time, that's crazy, because a lot of the players from Gen 5, in the main gen, they're not so different. I mean, Soulwind obviously has to be there. He's probably the best ever. Hard to imagine an argument for anyone else. Nowadays, I would definitely put Finch up there as one of the best black and white players ever. I'm trying to think of guys from the main generation of black and white, because I don't think a lot of them have endured. Like, Great Asterd was a big one back in the day. Definitely would put him and his impact up there. But a lot of the others who played during the current gen, they haven't had the long-lasting impact of the names that I've mentioned so far. So, I mean, Blue was... You gotta mention Blue, of course, even though it's in doubt. Philip 7086 was actually an incredible black and white player. He doesn't get remembered for that, so I think you would have to mention him for his incredible Frontier accomplishment, as well as shaping a lot of the metagame when he still played it through Black and White 1. Back then, during the current gen, I would mention guys like Iconic, Frankie, Blue Wind, Fulgorio. So, it was very, very different time. CL was actually amazing at Black and White. Yeah, Heist as well, of course. I don't know how I didn't mention him. Heist slash Babidi. He was very, 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 very good. Among the best at black and white. For a while, he was the best black and white player. At several different stretches, in fact. So, there was that, and... yeah, I think those guys are... Lavos was very good at black and white, too, although I don't know if about one of the best ever. Just really scratching for names. So, yeah, those guys are there. And Posha was very good at black and white for a time. And I think that's most of who I can care to name for now. You know, I'm fairly on the spot here. Gen 6, it's hard to pick against ABR, of course. Not a lot of other Gen 6 superstars in the same vein. So I'm going to have to call it there, especially because I'm less qualified once we get to Gen 6 and onward. But yeah, Gen 6, I mean, there's not just ABR. I think guys like Finch are really great at the tier as well. But I'm kind of falling short on names right now. Because a lot of the other Oris enthusiasts are not like all-time greats. I mean, I guess you could put like Bengay up there. But... yeah, Blunder, of course. Blunder and... Blunder had a lot of accomplishments in Gen 6. And, who else was there? Poic was very good at Gen 6 when he played. Definitely one of the best. TDK, obviously. He shaped a lot of the tier. Great Astrid when he still played. We got some party animals out on the street, apparently. So there's those guys, and I'm going to call it there. So, Secret Base, why is Sandvale the best archetype in Advance? Because it's cheesy and stupid and needs to be banned. Morelli, is Breloom going up to OU then? I would say Breloom is probably eventually going to go up to OU. I think like after next SPL, it's probably going to be valid to consider Breloom a legitimate OU Pokemon, assuming it still gets used how it is. Because Raikou did not drop out of OU overnight, so... Spaghetti Man 2002, what are your preparations for making a video? Do you prepare talking points, research, freehand it? I hate editing. Editing is annoying, takes time, and then the rendering of the video takes time, so if possible, then I definitely prefer to do everything in one shot. So I don't really prepare talking points or anything. The most I'll use is if I know I'm going to be talking about something like, let's say, Protect, then I'll get some replays ready so I can show off the thing I'm talking about. Or like talking about a certain moveset on a Pokemon. You know, here's a replay where it put in a lot of work. So, or if I'm talking about like a team, like August's TPP team I did a video on recently, then I'll get the replays of that ready. But other than that, or maybe pulling up viability rankings to go through, then, you know, nothing really intensive. I mean, for those who watch my videos, you'll know it's mostly just either I'm in the team builder, maybe I go over to a replay, or I'm laddering. So I definitely prefer the one-shot format. It's a lot easier and it feels natural. Like some people have told me you got to use a script, and I hate that. I don't want to do it. First of all, it takes a lot more time, and the more time it takes, then the harder it becomes to make videos like that. Like as much as I would like to. So I would much prefer to, or when I'm going over replay for the greatest battles or anything, that I don't need to do the talking points because I know I can just look at the battle and, you know, analyze it. So I'm lucky enough to not need a lot of preparation. So I do prefer, I mean, sometimes I'll edit a video, like, if it really, really calls for it. But for the most part, I definitely prefer to just get in there, you know, have my stuff ready and just show it on the screen and do that. So I definitely don't need, or I generally don't need talking points or, you know, as far as research, I generally know my stuff pretty well. So all I'll pull up is stuff that I'm going to use to further make my point. Like, all right, see, August team is really great. Here are the replays of it being great, you know, of that. Fishing Rod, you've talked a lot about the beauty of various metagames. How would you explain this to the layman? Asking because I'm writing a paper about my advanced experience for my writing and rhetoric class. Hope you don't mind if I credit you. I don't mind at all. All the best, best of luck, that sort of thing. I hope it works out, and you get a good grade. To the layman, like someone who doesn't even know Pokemon, that's an impressive undertaking because that's ambitious. I really don't know. I would say that I guess the intellectual stimulation of the various possible interactions you can have in different metagames, that's the appeal of it. Like, for example, in Advance, I love the whole dynamic of Metagross and Salamence switching around to neuter a physical sweeper that would otherwise be dangerous, that kind of thing. So, or, building your teams to have that kind of thing implemented. I would try to keep it simple as possible, as little Pokemon specific terms as you can. Instead, like the player interactions, the mind games, the psychological factor, the foresight required to play a good game and build a good team, and for metagames specifically, then the surroundings of that specific metagame, which inform the kind of dynamics and interactions that you enjoy the most. Like, for example, the Metagross Salamence thing doesn't really exist outside Advance. So, that kind of thing. So yeah, all the best. Let me know how it goes. Non-invasive weeb. If you could ban any Pokemon from any gen, who would it be? We already went over this question earlier, but if it just had to be one and no others, then Keldeo from Black and White. Nico, hey, do you live in Czech Republic or in the US? Wouldn't say you are European because your accent is flawless. Well, thank you. I do live in the Czech Republic. I live in Prague, but I'm also half American, and I have lived in both countries for the entirety of my life. So I go to school in the Czech Republic right now. I go back to see my friends in the States. I don't know where I want to end up in the future, but I am 50-50, both Czech and American, which is why I have this awesome American accent. A je to taky důvod, proč můžu mluvit tak perfektně česky, i když občas řeknu nějakou blbost. Protože nemluvím česky tak, jak moc mluvím anglicky, tak občas řeknu něco ne špatného, ale zní to trochu divně, tak. Yeah, there you go. Iguanodon 6, what are your top 5 favorite SPL matches ever? Talk about needing preparation. I guess I should have also asked for specification because I don't know if this is SPL games I've played or SPL games I've seen. So I'm just going to stick to SPL games I've seen because that's what the wording would imply more strongly. So, oh man, this is... Okay, okay, gotta pick one. Okay, I think that SPL 4 had a lot of really great games. I don't know, this is really tough. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to not answer this now, but I'm going to make a video this upcoming week about this very topic. I think that's more satisfying for everyone. So, hope you understand. I think the video will be fantastic. Just watch Logan, breathtaking movie, teared up at the end. I agree. Like, I'm not saying Logan is a perfect movie, start to finish, because I know some cinephiles think it's not all that, but yeah, it's flawed, but it's still amazing, in my opinion. So, and I love it. I cherish it the most. Like, I don't think it's a better movie than Taxi Driver, but to me personally, it means more than Taxi Driver. Not by a lot, don't get me wrong. Taxi Driver is up there. So it's like In Bruges and Clerks and The Incredibles and Whiplash would be another one. But, that's, maybe a My Favorite Movies video or something. Anyway, Children of Men also. And Prisoners. So, stuff like that. I've been expanding my repertoire more. A Czech horror movie called The Cremator is one of my favorites too. I've been watching 8.5 actually. Had to postpone finishing it off because of real life, but so far I love it. Should actually get back to that after this. I enjoyed Logan a lot. What kind of animal do you think? I'm not really an X-Men fan. Like the others, I could take or leave. They're okay. I don't really care for them. I saw the New Mutants recently. That was a decent time. I enjoyed it. Nice little movie. But yeah, Logan is just head and shoulders above. What kind of animal do you think Heatran is? Tortoise-like? I don't think he's a bulldog. He's a fire frog, isn't he? He's like a steel fire frog. Wonder how they came up with that one. Time to hit up Bulbapedia. I love hitting up Bulbapedia. Pokemon puns. What mom would you prefer to have a new second typing? This is a great question. Luxray being electric and dark would be very cool. That is, I think we're actually at the very end. What mom secondary typing? Alright. I'm just going to stick with mono-typed Pokemon that don't have something. So I think Luxray, Electric Dark, I'm not sure I could come up with anything better than that. But, because I don't think there's anything else you'd really give Floatzel. Who else? Another Pokemon I love. Maybe Ghost Fairy for Mismagius? That would be cool. I don't think we have any Ghost Fairy types. So you know what? I'm going to go with that. Ghost Fairy Mismagius sounds super cool. So, and it's also now neutral to dark. Wonderful. So yeah, Ghost Fairy Mismagius. I think it kind of works. Not 100% on that, but I don't think it's too much of a stretch either. I guess you could also just go Ghost Dark Mismagius. Then we would have an actual fast, strong Ghost Dark type. But I think I like Ghost Fairy better. I think it fits with Mismagius' design better. What Camcel19, what would your team/gym design be as an in-game gym leader? This is a fantastic question. I think I would have to go... I think Toxtricity is one of the coolest Pokemon designs ever. So I would have to do something like Roxy in Black and White 2. And have like a poison type, a rock gym theme. I mean, Toxtricity was made for her, pretty much. Same as 3 generations late. So, something like that, I guess. I mean, it's easy to say, oh, I would just have a fire type, and just run a bunch of fire Pokemon, but, I guess if not that, then I would run if not the whole poison punk rock thing with Toxtricity and Drapion and, who else? Skuntank, and who are some other poison types that are cool? I do like Weezing. Weezing is pretty fun. Arbok, Seviper, I don't know. Toxtricity and Drapion are the only two I'm 100% sure on. Skuntank and Toxicroak because, like I said, I love my Gen 4 pokes. So yeah, something like that. Those guys fit pretty well too, I think, for the punk rock theme. So yeah, either that or I would just go on full competitive and just have some sort of Sandstorm stall thing. 6 sand immune Pokemon, Spikes, T-Tar Scarm, the works, Gliscor. Yeah, one of those two. So, if I was a Pokemon, what kind of Pokeball would I prefer to live in? Well, Camsel is right. Luxury Ball is almost always the answer. But I always really loved the Dusk Ball in Gen 4 because it was so good. Cherish Ball is also a great one. You can't go wrong with that. Master Ball is probably, how could you go wrong with that? What are the other ones? I think those are probably the best ones. And the final question from Mike once again. Papa Kev, where do eggs come from? Well, when Lucario pops out an egg. So, there you go. Alright, thank you guys for... that was a reference to a very old YouTube video from the Gen 4 days, by the way. That was not just me being crass, but it was a Maryland video where they were at the daycare and Lucario and Gardevoir were, getting frisky, and it got very close to being very inappropriate for children. So, anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you all. Oh yeah, so come join the Discord. I almost finished this way too quickly. Come join the Discord. Come ask me your questions. Come hang out with some great players and good people. Then great players, better people. Yeah, come hang out, ask questions, and I will see you all, well, later this week for other videos, but for this style of video, I will be answering next Sunday. So, thank you, and I will catch you next time.